Hey, folks, listen. Um, what I say to myself when no one is listening is what the world sees when everyone is watching. And the reason that I start with that is because the Foreman 101 training is back. And the purpose of the Foreman 101 training is, of course, to train your foremen and floor leaders. We're talking about cabinet shops, architecture millwork shops. Perhaps you run a large closet shop where you have a foreman or a floor leader. And I want you to ask yourself, have you ever had the opportunity to train that person? Did you onboard them properly? Are you getting the kind of results you want from your production team? And if not, where can we start to make the changes so you do get the results that you want? Well, quite often, when we're busy, we just don't have the wherewithal, the time, or we don't know how to onboard a foreman properly. We don't know how to support a foreman because we just did it ourselves as we grew the business and nobody ever showed us. So the next person I hire should be able to figure it out as well, right? Have you ever said that? I have. It's always worked out kind of poorly. What about training your foreman? Have you ever actually sat down to train your foreman, how you want things done, how to lead people, the different types of leadership styles that are required for different type of people? Yes, it's not one size fits all. You can't use the same tools with every single person. You have to modify the way that you lead, and you have to also hire the right people on the team so that the foreman can lead whoever they've got. And then, of course, there's the time. Look, I get it. You're already running a very, very busy shop. Who has the time to do this? Well, Dami does. And so we're bringing back the Foreman 101 training. We were running it years ago. We took a break from doing it and we completely revamped it. As a matter of fact, a couple of you have already gotten emails from me asking for your feedback and your input on the format, the structure, some of the documentation, and some of the tools that are going to be trained in the Foreman training. Now you might say, well, Dom, I didn't get an email. Who'd you send that email to? Well, I sent that email to the clients that we already work with on for business coaching, and they're running very successful multi-million-dollar cabinet shops, architectural millwork shops, and closet companies. They're in the finished wood trades. In a lot of cases, not only did I get feedback from the owners of those shops, but those owners were wise enough to send my requests for edits and comments to their foreman. So real people in the field have already had a hand in forming and shaping what this new Foreman 101 training is going to look like. And listen, if you're interested, the very first step is just send me a text message, because there is no sales process. The very first step is you as the owner and your foreman or floor leaders or division, department leaders have to join me for an information call. That's it. Just an information call. It's going to be a webinar. It's probably only going to take a half an hour, depending on how many questions you have. To get on the information call is very simple. Send me a text message. You guys know my cell phone number. It's 315-903-7853. And just say Foreman. And I'll know, and Rio will know to send you the invitation to that information call. And again, the information call is purely an information call. There's nothing required here. All I want you and your foreman to do is sit there and watch the presentation, maybe ask some questions, see who else is in the room. You know what, it'll be a Zoom meeting. But then what I want you to do is leave the meeting without even talking to me if you don't want to. And the two of you need to have a conversation. Is this the right time for our business to be doing training for the foreman? Do we need this? Are there gaps we can fill? How would this help us? What would it cost? All of those things are important. What's the return going to be? Do I believe in the material that Dominic and his team have put together? And do we think that's going to help us go forward? So again, you're going to have to opt into this every step of the way. No part of this is selling for me. You have to want to be there. You have to understand the need to be there. You obviously have to see the value or you're not going to do it. But it's come and join us for the information call. Again, text me at 315-903-7853 and just say Foreman. And then I'll know to get you on the list for the information call. So pretty straightforward there. Let me look down on my notes here if you don't mind, because I want to share with you a couple of open questions that you need to ask yourself as you're watching this. Do you need foreman training? Many of you listening have already been through the previous foreman training, and maybe your foreman has moved on to other positions in the company, or you have a new foreman in the company. Foreman, shop leader, department leader, department leads. Maybe you've got somebody running the finishing department and you need some support for that person. All of those leadership positions are important. But I do have to say this. I want to remind you, if you're planning to put your foreman in this training, that's great. The owner has to be there as well. The owner must be in the training. So at least two people from your company are going to be there. That is you as the owner and your foreman. Now, if you as the owner are the foreman, then of course you can have that one person. But if you're the owner, have a foreman, both of you have to be in the training, because this is leadership training that we're applying to the foreman. If you and the foreman aren't in sync, then how are we going to get anything done? How's your foreman going to be able to talk to you about how things are going and how things are moving along? Now, I keep using the word foreman. You guys have seen the trends in the industry just like I have. There are many women in the trades, many women in leadership positions inside our shops. So when I say foreman, I mean four-person, but that doesn't even make sense. So I just keep saying foreman. Again, if you want to be in the training, shoot me a text. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. I almost forgot my own cell phone. 315-903-7853. Just say foreman or foreman training. Say, I want in the foreman training. But the very first thing is an information session. Anyways, let me ask you a couple of these questions to see, even at this stage, would foreman training make sense for you? Ask yourself this: do you and your foreman use business and leadership tools to hire for attitude? And so what I mean is this: are you the guard at the gate? Are you and your foreman the guard at the gate to make sure only the right kind of people with the right kind of mindset are working for your team? Think about your team right now and think about the problem or headache, challenge that you've had today with your team, or this week's Friday today. Did you have a real headache with your team? And is it a recurring headache? And is it the same person all the time? Well, you may have the wrong person on your team or the wrong kind of person. So looking back on how we're going to do things differently in the future, do you and your foreman use business and leadership tools to hire for attitude? That's a really important point that I just raised here. I heard a very cool quote yesterday. We're getting ready to interview one of the authors of Scaling Up. You guys can see this book back here, Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. Now, this particular strategic planning tool is for really, really big companies. So those of you who are using energy software might already be using Scaling Up as a strategic planning tool. Most people are using Traction as a planning tool because for the revenue levels, sometimes Traction makes sense. But when you get into the 10, 20, 30, $60 million range, you want to use a different strategic planning tool. We do that all the time. But one of the co-authors, I should say, contributing author to Scaling Up is a gentleman named Greg Crabtree. He's going to be on the show in the next little while, but he said something interesting to me in our preparation interview the other day. He said, this is an interesting time to be alive. What's in front of us is more important than what's behind us. It's kind of a cool way of looking at things. And it's the same for us when we're talking about hiring. What's ahead of us is more important than what's behind us. The people on your team are the people on your team. Was it Colin Powell that said, you go to war with the army you've got? You can't change the army you've got. You go to war with the army you've got, right? But when we want to think about growing the team in the future, again, I come back to the question, do you and your foreman have tools that you use to allow you to choose the right people who get to be on your team? Those are the kind of things we're going to talk about in this training. Do you guys use those business tools to hire for attitude, right? Do you have a whole crew full of bad attitude Andy? Or do you have a great crew and there's one person, bad attitude Andy, or bad attitude Anastasia? I don't know who it is, but that one person who's just causing this vortex of problems in the company. Well, we can fix that. And we do it through leadership tools today, but we also do it through hiring the right people tomorrow. And obviously, we're going to cover that in training. Do you have a crew personality tracker? An important tool so that before you get into a discussion, before you do a team review, before you have the time to do an employee review, do you have that discussion with that person based on their personality and their personality style? There's quite a bit of science that is now being added to the Foreman 101 training. Again, if you want to be in the Foreman 101 training, the very first step is join me for an information call. The date and time are yet to be scheduled, but shoot me a text, 315-903-7853, and just say Foreman training, something like that. And then I will know to get you on the list and invite you to the Foreman 101 training. Let me ask you this. Do you work 14 hours a day and still feel like you are behind? Let me say the same thing to the foreman. Are you pushing your crew and doing overtime and we always still feel left behind. Well, the third module, the third training session is called Running a Tight Crew, Accountability and Communication. What would it look like if your team was already highly accountable and had great communication? And maybe they do. And if your team already does, I guarantee you've already had proper onboarding, proper training, proper hiring procedures. We're hiring the right kind of people. We're bringing them on the right way. We're managing and leading them consistently. If those are the things you want, then you want to be in a training like this to support that, right? And again, if you have days when you feel like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, then you do need the communication and accountability tools that we're going to learn in the Foreman 101 training. So I'd be excited to have you at least on the information call. Look, this is a very low pressure situation. You either want in or you don't. Either way is okay with me. But if you want in, you got to be all in. And if you're all in, both of you are there, owner and foreman. Okay, so we can talk about that later privately if you need to. The fourth thing that we're going to be covering is Foreman's time management tools. Oh my goodness. How many of you have been trained on time management? Or did you become a foreman like I did way back? You know what I learned when it wasn't called a foreman, it was just called a lead or the guy who's running this crew. Hey, you seem like you're pretty good at the job. You want to lead? I'm like, does it come with a raise? And the answer was yes. And so I said, yes, I'll be the foreman. I'll be the crew lead. Is that how we promoted our people within? And if you did, that's fine. That's how most people become a foreman or a supervisor or a crew lead or a GM or an operations manager. You just kind of work your way up there. But at the same time, were you given time management tools for leadership? Has anybody had enough training on leadership? And if you have, do you need a refresher? Well, we're going to be covering that in the fourth session of this. So have you and your shop leads identified the 3 most common time wasters in production and how to save them? Do you have tools and checklists and printouts for your floor leaders to manage and lead with? If you don't, then this is going to be a very interesting information session for you because I'm going to uncover what gets taught in the class. Now, we're going to move on in the 5th week to managing time and jobs like a pro. So are you using things like the foreman's daily and weekly planning sheet? Do you have a floor and job site efficiency scorecard so that you can remove the emotion and use logic to drive your decisions? And that logic can be used then to manage people to data and facts, not feelings. Again, foreman training is something that is lacking in the market. I've decided that we're going to take a leadership position in this. And if you want in, send me a text, 315-903-7853. Just say foreman or foreman training, and then I'll know to get you on the information call. And then we're going to finish off. This is the final session. Number 6 is the final meeting, but it's only the final meeting for the foreman and the owner. There's one more meeting that's owner only. Okay, so number 6 or class number 6 is the foreman's solving problems without always running to the boss. You know, the foreman or leader has a very interesting and unique position because you're walking this tightrope between the needs of the floor, production, the floor, your installers, whatever it is. You're walking a tightrope of their needs versus the office needs. Sometimes you have to take what the office wants and go to your crew on the floor and say, this is what we got to do. But there's also equally sometimes you got to take the crew's needs and walk into the office and say, folks, we got to change this. And so you're in that interesting position between the two. So how do you solve problems on your own first without always running to the boss? And if you have to run to the boss, how do you formulate that conversation? How do you have that convo so the boss gets it and takes action? The owner gets it and takes action. So we've got things for you like the foreman's decision-making flowchart and priority planner, and also scripts and talk tracks. So you know what to say in difficult situations or in situations where you think you want to be understood in a particular way. So we've got some scripts, and all of this, by the way, a reminder, all of this comes from reality, not theory. We've coached hundreds. I'm cautious to say thousands, but if you take into account how many people listen to Cabinet Maker Profit System, if you take into account how many people watch the videos on YouTube and how many people we work with and how many people we've worked with over the 25 years, it might be closer to thousands. But all of this comes from the reality of being in the field and actually doing it. It's not theory out of a book. This is real world leadership training. It includes time management, it includes checklists, self-assessments, scripts, how to hire, what to say, all of the things that are important when we are leaders, because our job is to take the people on our team and get the most out of them, keeping them safe, keeping them happy and well fed, right? Anyways, that's a little bit about the Foreman 101 training. I'll be doing more information sessions or promotions, I guess, to let people know this is coming up. So if you do want to be on the information session, join me. You have to get on the list. And the way to get on the list is to send me a text. Very simple, nice, easy, right? Send me a text at 315-903-7853 and just say Foreman. And I'll know to get you on the list for the Foreman training. Now, you're going to hear from me or you're going to hear from Rio. Rio's a massive help to me in helping these things get organized. So if you hear from Rio and he's trying to get you on the call, please respond to his email, because it can only have so many people on the information call, because for every single company, there's going to be at least 2 people in most cases. And so if you're a solo owner of the business and you're also the foreman, you're going to want to be in this training. So in that case, there'd only be one of you. But if you're the owner and you have a foreman, you need to be on this training as well, because the language we use there is going to filter through the company. There's something, actually, this quote comes from Vern Harnish. If you can see this purple book behind me, he said something really brilliant. As goes the owner, so goes the team. Think about that for a second. As goes the owner, so goes the team. So if we go ahead and train your foreman and we give your foreman new tools, new language, new things to say, new forms, new checklists to use for leadership, and you as the owner don't know what they are, what happens when you get into a conversation in the hallway with one of your crew who has a question? You've got to answer the same way your foreman did, and your foreman's got to answer the same way you did. That's why we all need to be on the same page, right? So I really don't want people in this training who say, well, this sounds great. Put my people through it. I don't need to be there. No, you got to be there. You got to be there, right? I was actually just thinking that that Vern Harnish quote, "As goes the leader, so goes the team." There's an old quote. It's some European country that says, "A fish stinks from the head down." And so, what does that mean in leadership? The problems that we have in leadership filter through the company. How we train ourselves as leaders filters through the company. So, if we're the kind of leader, that's me as the owner and the foreman, who we take responsibility. We take ownership for the things we do. We speak in a positive language. We're problem solvers. Then that's going to filter through the company. But if me and my foreman place blame, if we're always making excuses, if it's always a negative discussion, guess what our team is going to do? They're just going to reflect what we do. It's no different than your kitchen table at home, right? So this foreman training has been specifically made, really scientifically put together through the data we get from all of our coaching, the feedback from our clients. It's completely been rebuilt from the foreman training that you would have taken from us before, where you already got value, because I know a bunch of you are going to come back for this. And now it's a much newer and stronger version. So join me for the Foreman 101 training information call. It's only going to be 30 minutes. You have to join that information call to get in. And the purpose of the information call is for you and your foreman to sit there and listen together. There's no pressure to join. I don't care if you join. You have to go away and decide to join. And that's the purpose of the information call, to educate you and the foreman on what the agenda is going to be, what we're going to cover, and what value will the foreman and you get. I want you and your foreman to go off and talk about that after. And then you can contact me and say, yes, we're in, or no, we're not. And either answer is fine. But when you're in, you're in. And then it's a 6-week training. Now, there is a 7th week, and I talked about that before. And of course, to get on the info call, just as a reminder, for those of you who may be joining halfway through the stream, send me a text message at 315-903-7853. Just say Foreman, and then we know. The 7th week is owners only. And what we're going to do is, as a discussion of everybody in the training, all the owners in the training, what did we learn? What are the sticking points? And what do we need next to go forward after we say goodbye? So there is one 7th bonus, I guess you could call it. And by the way, speaking of bonuses, there are downloads that you're going to get from this. So it's not just talking. There's going to be downloads, scripts, talk tracks, checklists, tools, things to use, and feedback from the audience. So in the past, our trainings were very one way, where we were talking at you. This is going to be much more conversational based on the tools. So on any given week, you're going to have access to a Google Drive folder. All of the documents are going to be in there. It works very similar to how we run boot camp and the coaching that we do. You're going to have all the documents. Print them off. You and the foreman are going to be sitting there confidentially in your boardroom. And we're going to talk about the document. Right. And then you're going to get to use the document and talk about it. But what's interesting there is you're going to hear what another shop on the other side of the country, whichever direction you want to go. Mostly it's made up of people in the United States and Canada. So you're going to have an enormous range of people giving input into how they deal with these same issues. And when you hear that, you're going to get some great ideas for yourself. It's called R&D, which you might think stands for research and development, but the joke is it actually stands for rip off and redeploy. So remember how I started this. What I say to myself when no one is listening is what the world sees when everyone is watching. And we want our foremen, we want our leaders to be really finely tuned leaders who understand how to get the best out of people in a safe and productive way. That's what we're trying to do here, right? We want everybody to go home and have a great meal with their family at the end of the day and say, I work for the greatest company in the city. I work for the greatest boss in the city because they support me, because they train me, because I always know what's going on. I'm not operating in the dark. So anyways, if that's a goal for you, if you really want to take your company to that level of keeping your team strong, moving forward so that they help you grow this business, then join us for the Foreman training. It's a great place to start. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, shoot me a text. You can ask me a question there. You don't have just to send code words. But again, the very first step is the information call. That's it. It's going to be around 30 minutes. You can ask questions as well. So maybe it's 35 minutes. But in the information call, it will be you and your foreman, unless you're small enough that you are the foreman. You're going to hear exactly what we cover off. We're going to talk about the outcome, what the learning outcomes are. And you're then going to go away and talk with your foreman about whether this is for you or not. Is it the right time? Do we getting the right value? What's the cost going to be? All that stuff's going to be shared. There's no use hiding anything. It's just going to be what it is. You're either in or you're out. Either answer's fine with me. You're in, you're in. You're out, you're out. No big deal. But if you're in, and you're going to get the Google Drive folder. You're going to get all the documents. There's some pre-work. There's some science behind this, folks. You're going to have to do some work. It's not just listening. I need you to be in a confidential space where you can take notes. What I also need you to do, and this is directly to the owners listening, is after the class, let's say the class goes for an hour, because it does, book another half hour to sit there with your foreman and talk about what you learned and how we can put it in place. And what are the opportunities we've just found? What are the challenges we have? How are we going to get around them? Lead your team like you want your foreman to lead their team, right? So anyways, kind of a cool circular effect. And all of this is based on real fact and real input. Again, if you want in, all it is an information call. That's all you're looking at next, a 30-minute information call. If you want in on the call, send me a text, 315-903-7853, and just say Foreman. We'll take it from there. Thanks for checking in, folks. It's Friday, so I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.